We're continuing to follow the breaking news this morning. Bills safety Damar Hamlin in critical condition this morning at a Cincinnati hospital, according to the Bills, after he collapsed on the field during last night's game.
And right now we are joined by NFL Insider Vic Carucci. And Vic, when you saw this, I mean, there are a lot of scenes in other sports that come to mind with such an immediate life-saving response, but we haven't seen anything like this in the NFL.
No, and in the many years that I've done this, going all the way back to 1979, I mean, covering the NFL, I've seen a lot of players suffer injuries, and some that I would term gruesome in terms of leg injuries, ankles, arms, you name it, but never anything like this. And you think back to when players suffer a traumatic event on the field, and there are concussions, and of course, then everybody gets down on the knee and they wait, and the silence of the stadium, all those things. I mean, we've seen that happen, I'm sure, as fans and others, but nothing like this. And as I was watching that was what was going through my mind, is how suddenly the perspective changed. We spent all this time on the buildup of what was the most important game of the year, on the most anticipated Monday night game in many years. And then we find ourselves having this kind of conversation.
Yeah, Vic, you just said that this was one of the most anticipated Monday night games in many years. And while, our collective arms are wrapped around Damar Hamlin this morning, and he is the top priority in his recovery through this, a lot of people are wondering, what do the Bills and the Bengals do? What does the NFL do to reschedule that game? This should not be a priority, but a lot of people are asking that question. What do you think is going to happen here?
No, and Melissa, that's the reality of where we are, that yes, it is a horrible thing that happened, and that we are on literal pins, needles, holding our breath as to what the update is going to be on Damar Hamlin's health and where we go from here. But another scene is going to play out, and that is the NFL figuring out what to do about what is left of a scheduled game, of its entire, league. And even though being well beyond Buffalo throughout the NFL, there is this sense of, the pause button being hit on not just the NFL, on sports. Last night, working last night at Channel 2 and then heading home, I was listening to Sirius XM NFL Radio, and the discussion there, and ESPN Radio. All these national broadcasts were about how no one was even thinking about what was going on anywhere else in the sports world but Damar Hamlin. Still, they've got to figure out how, they being the NFL, how to resume either this game, and then the implications as it applies to playoff scenarios that involve not only the Bills, but their opponent in this game, the Cincinnati Bengals, Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, because of the AFC North competition with the Bengals, just to name a few, all the scenarios that play out. And you still have a full slate of games scheduled for next weekend. So including the Bills, who are slated to play the Patriots. And then how do they play again? And I think this is another kind of going on in the same conversation about what to do, is who this affects. It affects everyone, but certainly the Bills to the deepest degree, right? Because the NFL had a national conference call last night, and I've been going through all the notes from that. And one of the things that really stuck with me is how the Bills return home as a team, but some players stayed behind in Cincinnati to be with Damar Hamlin, to make sure they were not going to leave Cincinnati without him, or at least be as close as they can to him. So when you think about that, how does that play out too, with regard to playing, either continuing this game or even playing any other game going forward?
Yeah, and I think a lot of those questions in a lot of people's minds don't matter until they find out what happens with Damar Hamlin. Mm-hmm. All right, Vic, we'll talk to you.
Yeah. Okay,
we'll
Pete. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, thanks very much, Vic Carucci, joining us live this morning.